So several years ago, I went through a season of really darkness and deep depression and anxiety. And many people know this season that they experienced it in their own lives. It was right around 2020 when it started, when COVID enters the scene, and then there were shootings all across America. It was election season, and as a pastor, I couldn't say anything right. I didn't know which way was up, and I was experiencing a lot of anxiety and a lot of fear and a lot of shame and a lot of depression, and didn't know what to do or where to turn, because that wasn't anything I'd ever experienced in my life up until that point. The enemy began to attack and shoot fiery arrows of shame and of guilt that seemed to constantly overwhelm me. And it was a season when I kept looking for answers, and I kept looking to see the Lord at work in me and around me, and I was struggling deeply with seeing those realities. And so I took some time and I decided I'm just going to go back to the Psalms. I'm just going to go back to these poems that were written by psalmists and by David in the times of their struggles, in the times of their trials, and maybe just maybe that the Lord would minister to me during those times. And one of those psalms that I came to comes from Psalm 13. It says, "How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I take counsel in my soul and have sorrow in my heart all the day? How long shall my enemy be exalted over me? Consider and answer me, O Lord my God. Light up my eyes, lest I sleep the sleep of death, lest my enemy say I have prevailed over him, lest my foes rejoice because I am shaken." When I read that first half of the psalm, I connected so deeply with it. How long, O Lord, how long, O Lord, will you continue to forget me? But I continued reading in the psalm, and verse 5 and 6 say this: "But I have trusted in your steadfast love. My heart shall rejoice in your salvation. I will sing to the Lord because he has dealt bountifully with me." I began to take time to look back in my life in the midst of anxiety, in the midst of depression, in the midst of shame and these fiery arrows. I could remember times where God had dealt bountifully with me. I had to look no further than the good news of the gospel of grace, that God saw me in the midst of my sin. God saw me in the midst of my depravity, and he sent his son Jesus to come in to rescue me out of that, to call me his own, to take me from the domain of darkness and transfer me into the kingdom of his beloved son. I began to think even the breath that I have that day, the sustaining breath of the Lord, was a good, bountiful dealing and gift of God. And the Psalms became my refuge and my hiding place in the times of darkness and despair. And then I came across a psalm that I had read hundreds of times. In fact, many of you have read this psalm over and over again, but it's Psalm 23. And I began to look at the words of Psalm 23, that the Lord is my shepherd, that I shall not want. And then these next words stuck with me. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. And then this: even though I was walking through the valley of the shadow of death, I could fear no evil, because his rod and his staff, they were comforting me. And he prepared a table before me in the presence of my enemy, and anointed my head with oil, and my cup was overflowing. And this is what stuck with me: surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life. And I was reminded through these words of the psalmist that in the midst of darkness, in the midst of my despair, I have a good shepherd who sees me, who loves me, who hears me, who has compassion on me. The depression and the anxiety, it didn't all go away. And I could remember how much God loves me and cares for me, and was reminded again and again that I have a God who sees me, I have a God who knows me, I have a God who loves me. So wherever you are, in the midst of whatever darkness you may be experiencing, no matter how deep the waters are or how low the valley is, cling to the bountiful dealings of the Lord and know that you have a good shepherd who makes you lie down in green pastures, who leads you beside still waters, who restores your soul. And know the goodness and mercy of the Lord will follow you all the days of your life.